I gave him, what's that? I gave him his packet for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay. Your microphones are live.
Okay. Okay, it's 9 o'clock and let's get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Stephen DeLaRoche. I'm the Special Magistrate for the City of Daytona Beach Shores Code Enforcement. We have a very full agenda this morning, mostly my fault because we did not have a December meeting, largely, well, 100% due to my health problems, and I apologize for that. We'll try to go at a fair pace this morning. The way we conduct the hearing is that there is an agenda, we take it in order. When it is your turn, please, or your item is up, please raise your hand, I'll swear you in. It is the city's burden of proof to prove the code violation. They go first. After the city is done presenting their case, you have an opportunity to ask them questions. Not to present your case, but to ask them questions. After you're done asking questions, I'll give the city a chance to follow up if they have any additional information, and then it is your turn. You can call witnesses on your own behalf, you can testify on your own behalf, you can show me evidence such as photographs or documents. All I ask is that you speak into the microphone. I am not wearing a mask because I'm more than 6 feet away from you, but I'm cognizant that everybody else is, and I don't want to miss anything. I want to give everybody a fair hearing, and if I can't understand you, it's really hard for me to find in your favor. Okay, so speak up loud and clear. If you have something you want to show me, please tell me beforehand, and I'll let you approach and hand it to me. If you have any questions while we are underway and proceeding, please raise your hand. I'll be more than happy to answer your question. I understand for most of you, this is a one-off event. You've never been here before, and you're really, truly hoping never to come back here again. So I don't expect you to have any experience with the process. Okay? All right, the first thing we're going to do is approve the minutes of the last meeting. I realize that the only people that were here the last meeting were the city staff. Does anybody have any objection to the approval of the minutes? All right, hearing no objection, the minutes are approved from the October 21st meeting. The first thing we have on the agenda is Miralev LLC, 2020 South Atlantic Avenue, Daytona Beach Shores, Florida. Ms. Herstein? Is there a representative of Miralev LLC here? No. Okay.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd first like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate's notebook for this case be accepted as evidence, along with the slides which are about to be shown for the case.
Okay. I've had an opportunity to review all of them. Seeing no objection, I will accept them into evidence. If you'd raise your right hand and be sworn, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. So we've had this before.
Yes, Your Honor, this is a first compliance hearing. Basically, the property has already been before His Honor and was given 120 days to correct, and I'm coming back, unfortunately, today because a majority of the violations were not corrected. But just to give you a quick overview of the property, you're looking at one parcel with 2 buildings on it. The lower slide shows it best. I think the purple star is over a very large building, and the green star is over a much smaller building. They're both vacant. They've been vacant for 12, 13 plus years. And they needed to get a CCVP, which is a Certificate of Compliance Vacant Property.
Right. And I note that I gave them 120 days to correct all of the problems, and that expired on December 17th. Did they fix all of the items that were listed the last time?
No, Your Honor. And I have affidavits stating that. I also have pictures to show you if you'd like to see them. But basically, the case began, again, back in February of 2020. It was brought before you on August 19th. You gave them 120 days. At that time, I will remind His Honor that at my request, the cases were combined to have. So basically now, instead of just your normal violation A, B, C, you have LGA and SMA, and that
Large and small.
Exactly, tries to keep it organized so that folks know what they have to do. They were given by you until December 17th to correct, or fines of $250 per day would begin. Your findings of fact document you can see in the packet on 4A-13, which was mailed to the addresses of record. A few days after the special magistrate meeting, Inspector Edmonds had to issue a second stop work order for additional work occurring on the property without permits. On December 18th, we did re-inspect the exterior of the property. Basically, we're not going to go back into the interior unless they feel that they have become compliant.
Right.
Which is part of the order. You know, tell us when you're ready and we will go and re-inspect. But having not heard that, I still did re-inspect from the edge of the property and found that at that point only one of the violations had been corrected, or so I thought. I did generate an affidavit of compliance partial for the one violation, as they had removed the east wall meter boxes. And I sent a notice of first compliance hearing for today's meeting with the affidavit of noncompliance and the affidavit of compliance partial.
I see that they're represented by an attorney.
Yes.
Did you have any subsequent conversations with the attorney after January 11th?
We've had a number of conversations. He's also, actually, not when I say we, the building department has, regarding permits that he's attempting to obtain. He's gotten into some specific questions about specific products that might be used for cleaning concrete, that kind of thing. And then also I did get an email yesterday at 4:29, which I would like to discuss in just a second, and I have a copy of that for His Honor. So basically, I erroneously thought that the meters, having been removed from the large building, was fine to do without a permit. I didn't ever say that to the respondent at any point, but I thought it was okay when I saw that it had been removed. I said, great. Unfortunately, there's a masthead on the little building, but the large building was fed with underground.
Right, and they
it
weren't
really
capped
needed to
off.
be capped off. So I immediately, when I learned that, issued a new affidavit of noncompliance, amended, and sent that by email to both respondents, including the attorney. And
Is there power going to those wires?
well, we see that the masthead is not connected to the smaller building, but at some point there would be power. And so that's why capping it off, you know, an electrician capping it off is the appropriate thing to do.
Okay.
So I had to pull that back, leaving none of the violations compliant. So we sent the notice of first compliance hearing. Good service was achieved to both parties on December 31st. I didn't hear from anyone until yesterday afternoon. And if I might, I will present you with a copy of that email, and then I'll kind of briefly go through it with you.
Okay.
May I approach?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Copy for the record. Basically, first paragraph says, we'll be obtaining a permit in the next 2 days to repair the concrete spalling and block in window openings. It's fine. They've been working on that permit. It's been application incomplete for quite some time. Also that they had received my email and will be obtaining an electrical permit to cap off that underground feed. Second paragraph basically acknowledges, I did also say, hey, by the way, I was at the property. the second floor door, which is the only way up into that second floor. Your second floor door is wide open, and I didn't see any cars of anybody on site working, so that's a problem. The second paragraph from Attorney Bailey acknowledges that the second floor door was open, said thanks for telling us, and
Right.
basically said that the condition of the floor, that second floor, which we have listed in at least 4 of 19 interior deficiencies, and that's on that separate list. They have to take care of the interior deficiencies also in order to be able to gain the certificate of compliance vacant property.
Right. Is the floor in such disrepair that it presents a safety hazard?
Absolutely.
A first responder?
First responder, anybody looking at the site, we're even concerned when we're inside walking. You have to walk very carefully. You can see in many places where the support that's supposed to be there is not there. You can feel it when you walk. It is definitely a legitimate life safety issue for anybody entering the site.
This is what I want to do about that. I appreciate that Mr. Bailey sent us an email, but I have your affidavit that the floor is not in code compliance, and until I see otherwise by a presentation from Mr. Bailey or some other representative, I'm not going to consider the email as evidence, and we're going to proceed under the assumption that the city is correct and that the floor is not in compliance. Ms. Herstein, I have your affidavit as to the continuing violations. I do not have opposition to your affidavit, and they're accepted as evidence, which means they are true. We have a full agenda today, and while I always appreciate your incredibly thorough presentation, without opposition, I don't feel it's necessary.
Understood, absolutely. And I would like to point out that the affidavit of noncompliance does not address the floor. Basically, the last of the violations on the notice of violation says, and you have gone longer with a vacant building than 60 days without obtaining the CCVP. By extension, the CCVP cannot be issued by the city, by the building official, without that floor being in a condition where it's safe for first responders, et cetera.
Right.
So it's not specifically in the affidavit, but
There's such a basket of problems with the building, whether the floor is in compliance or not, really is not material to the action that I'm about to take.
understood. In that case, I am asking that that His Honor consider a motion number 11 for, and find that the property.
In order
did not-
11?
Yes, in order number 11, and find that the property did not become compliant by the special magistrate's order date, and that additional administrative fees of $92.43 be added to the already approved administrative fees of $162.89, which have not been paid, for a new total of $255.32, and that fines begin as of December 18th and continue until compliance is met.
Okay, I'm going to so order that, fines at $250 per day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Okay. Next case on the docket. Now that we have this plexiglass, I don't have room to spread things out. So it's stacked on top of each other instead of being able to be seen. It's B&Y Incorporated, 2000 South Atlantic Avenue in Daytona Beach Shores, Florida. Is there a property owner or representative of B&Y Incorporated?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Okay. What I'd like to do, yes?
Mr.
You
Morales?
from here at B&Y, sir?
I'm sorry, I didn't see you come in.
And what's your name?
Yoda Morales.
Okay. Let me pull that up. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Mr. Morali?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that how I pronounce it? I see by the tombstone at the Secretary of State's website that you are the registered agent and director for E&Y Incorporated.
Yes,
Okay, so I find that you have authority to represent them.
yes.
All right. Ms. Hurstein, you may proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate's notebook for this case be accepted as evidence along with the slides which are about to be shown for this case.
Sir, is there any objection to any of the paperwork that the city is about to introduce?
Maybe 2 or 3 items, but I let her finish and then I will.
Okay. You have the right to state a legal objection if you so choose, or if you know of one that fits the definition.
Sure.
Okay. And I'm going to give the city a chance to make its presentation. You can ask her any questions, and then you have an opportunity to make a presentation.
Sure.
Can you hear her okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. This case began with a CCVP inspection December 5th of 2019. Basically, a notice of violation was generated after that inspection with 15 violations, along with an interior deficiency letter with 5 interior deficiencies. You can see those documents starting on page 5A13. Good service was achieved for that notice. We had given the property owner a few weeks later, actually about 6 weeks later, the property owner came in and we went through each of the violations one by one. I gave him a set of pictures of all the violations. We tied each one together so that he felt clear understanding of what we were asking him to do. In February, we did receive a roofing permit and not that they needed a new roof, but there was some trim missing, and also a plumbing permit application to cap off the open sewer lines. We also received an incomplete building application, permit application for some of the repairs to the building that needed to be made.
Okay.
With no progress, after 6 months and no hearings occurring for 6 months, I conducted exterior inspections again, October 29th, by myself from the perimeter, and then and November 3rd. I went back because a couple of the pictures didn't come out. The exterior violations remained, except 2 original, which relate to that pole sign, which Mr. Morali had permitted and removed, and it's gone, which is excellent. Basically,
What was the use of this building?
I'm sorry, this was a gift shop,
Okay.
and it has been 2 gift shops since I've been here, and it both owned by Mr. Morali, and unfortunately, approximately, and this is a guess, approximately 5 or 6 years ago, had a fire, unfortunately, inside, and they lost a lot of merchandise, probably almost everything with the smoke and the water, and it has not been able to be reopened since.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I generated, after those inspections, a statement of violation, request for hearing, and notice of hearing, and sent them. Good service was achieved for the December 2nd special magistrate meeting. The cases on the second agenda, December 2nd agenda, were postponed until today's meeting. I did have a few conversations in the interim with engineer Joe Hopkins. He'd been talking to Mr. Morali potentially about rehabbing the building, refurbishing the building to be open possibly. So we had a couple conversations. I did send a new statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing for today's meeting, and good service was achieved for that. I was invited to inspect the inside of the property. I was invited late on January 12th. We ended up making an appointment for the 14th. And I would like to show you the limited violations remaining, which we're down to 3, which is excellent. Yes, he's made great progress. Now, I am going to ask for the ones that weren't compliant before but are now. I'm going to ask for no fine standing order for those, and then the 3 remaining violations, which are E, J, and L. And L is really basically once you get E and J, unless anything else pops up, which I don't expect, you will have achieved L, which is obtaining a CCVP. I would like to briefly go through the pictures just to
Okay.
to support the request for a no fine standing order, and if it pleases Your Honor.
All right, please.
This is the January 13th screenshot of the permits at that time available. The roof permit that you see on the very top where the top red box is, the very first line has actually been final approved. That was to fix that trim. So yesterday it had an approved final inspection. And the building permit, as you can see, that one is still incomplete, needs more information. And in fact, that application expired. The contractor has a couple options. He can submit a new one. He can submit something stating that it expired due to COVID and ask for an extension that way. But we're trying to, we're working with people with open permits for their COVID extensions, but we're trying to encourage the older applications to just be submitted anew.
Okay.
So that's where we stand there. And we'll just go through the violations real quick if we can. Violation A, multiple parking bumpers are in disrepair. Again, that's been fixed. Those were replaced as of yesterday, and all are good. I think he's still planning on painting them, but they're not broken. Violation B, the walkway cracked and not flat east of the building. That was compliant by January 14th. I'm not showing you the compliant pictures. What I am, well, in this case I have the green. What I am showing you purposefully is the initial inspection with the purple. The lower pictures are with the orange are the re-inspect pictures showing that it was not done at that time. And that's the basis for the no fine standing order. And then the re-inspection where I could, like yesterday, I don't have a re-inspect picture for that one, but where I could to show you what it looks like now, that front walkway looks fantastic.
It does.
Violation C, seal trim at large west window on the north building face has failed. That was compliant. Showing you again the green. Well done. Violation D, wood unprotected by paint or trim in places at the edge of the roof. And that was compliant by January 14th. Violation E, this is one that's still outstanding. Stucco cracked in places at column located at the northeast entrance and at the northeast corner of the building. That's showing you an original picture up top. That's what it looks like. There's a fade out, a larger shot of the column, both up top. The re-inspect picture on October 29th showing you that it still has not been taken care of. And then it was addressed, but not with the permits, as we had stated we needed permits from the beginning for that, because there are underlying issues that would cause that to happen. That's why that one is still outstanding.
This one I objected.
Okay. What is your objection to the photograph, sir?
At the point of construction, you can look at a lot of building here. And I took picture of some building here, even the building of the city. And
Okay.
I took it just to show you that this is a stucco. Just when we built the building back, when you see the original picture, it was a design of stucco which covered the
Okay. Sir?
4-inch beam.
Sir, there is a difference between an objection
Okay.
and argument. What you're making is an argument, and I'm certainly willing and able to let you speak as long as you'd like on your point, but an objection would be, a legal objection would be that the picture had been manipulated and didn't fairly and accurately represent the scene when it was taken, or something along those lines.
Just wanted to bring that.
And I'm going to let you talk as long as you like, but the only thing that you can do right now is state a legal objection to the city's evidence. And I understand that's lawyer stuff and you're not a lawyer, but you had the opportunity to bring one, and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to find in your favor. I'm just saying that you're not doing the right thing at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, if you'll have a seat, I'll let you talk all you want.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Basically, when you see cracks like that, it means something is going wrong inside. And if you just stuck over the cracks, it's going to happen again. And there may be structural integrity issues too. This is a support column for, for the overhang part of it. So
Okay.
that one is not compliant. Violation F, weeds encroaching parking lot. That was not fixed by November 3rd, but you can see it has been fixed by January 14th. Violation G, white patch of graffiti, not fixed by October 29th, fixed by January 14th. Violation H, open electrical junction box at west building face, northwest corner, not fixed by October 29th, fixed by January 14th. Violation I is another open electrical junction box that was not fixed in that lower picture by October 29th and fixed by January 14th. Violation J, this is one that is still outstanding. 2 column bases on either side of the east-facing entrance doors are both non-functional elements. They also create a trip hazard. So we've worked with Mr. Morale with a couple ideas. He
The planter idea, I saw that.
originally going to remove them, didn't want to remove them for maybe some future building, but they need to either have a use and not be trip hazards, or they need to be removed, and he's got some ideas. And the engineer is working with him on that as well, for a pretty simple fix. Violation K is compliant, roof edge trim missing in places and loose in others. That was compliant yesterday with that final inspection. Violation L, building remaining vacant longer than 60 days without obtaining a certificate of compliance, vacant property. I did want to show you that the E5 interior violations are actually 4 plus, then it refers, number 5 refers back to the notice of violation. The pictures on the left were what it looked like with the interior storage. Pictures on the right, I apologize for the way they look, but there is like black, thick plastic up around, so my camera didn't register real well, but it is beautifully cleaned out. There's still a little bit of stuff we talked about, but for the for the purposes of today's hearing and for the purposes of being an empty building, it is now a virtually empty building, which is excellent. And I did want to say that all of the other violations or the interior deficiencies noted have been brought into compliance. They were kind of noted, so we're no longer dealing with that. The only thing standing in Mr. Morale's way of the CCVP are those 2 violations, E and J.
Okay.
I would like to ask that Mr. Edmonds come to the podium if he would, and just let's get him on the record. He may be the one that we ask about some of the structural components about that column.
Okay, I'm going to give Mr. Morale a chance to ask you questions
Okay.
before I change witnesses. Sir, do you have any questions for Ms. Herstein?
Yeah.
And what would you like to ask her?
Now we'll need to.
The picture of the crack.
Would you mind bringing the picture of the cracked stucco back up?
And he would need to take the microphone, so I'm going to kind of move out of the
Okay.
way.
If you'd come up here, sir. All right. Is that the picture you're asking for?
Yeah. Okay, if you look at this, basically,
Okay, hold on. Again, I understand you don't do this. You own property, you own gift shops, you're not an attorney. This is your opportunity to ask her questions.
that's all I'm gonna ask.
Okay, the opportunity to tell me anything that you would like me to know comes after the city is done.
Sure.
Okay? All right, please proceed.
I'm asking, why do I need to pull a permit when you just cover it with caulking and concrete cement? It's when, and I never saw anything like this that you need to pull a permit for that.
Okay, what is the question you're asking her?
The question I'm asking, what's the reason I need a permit for that?
Okay, would you mind explaining that, please?
Shall I? Do you need me, Sherry, back at the microphone or not anymore?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, we'll switch spots again. I'm sorry.
You want to take that microphone?
Oh, sure, that'd be better. Sorry about that. Come on back up. Thanks, Sherry. Okay, so what's the reason that you need a permit when you could just cover it up? Generally, when there's evidence, exterior evidence of cracking like that, it means there's a problem underneath. Rebar that's gotten wet and is not holding on to anything anymore, or any kind of structural issue may be behind that. If you just cover it up, you're not taking care of whatever may be behind it. It may be delaminated. There are a number of things that could be happening there. We're not engineers, we don't know, which is why we're asking that it be properly addressed.
Okay.
Okay, so this it's only covering the column. It's a steel column, and it's covered with aluminum.
Right, I understand.
So-
But again, this is a question.
My
Do you
question.
have any other question for her?
She answered the question, but it doesn't make sense. That's it. I'm
Well, you can tell me how much it doesn't make sense when it's your turn.
okay.
Okay? Any other questions for Ms. Herstein? Okay, I'm going to ask you to sit down again. And I know it seems like we're doing procedure just for procedure's sake, but everything has to be taken in order. Otherwise, it's not a court proceeding, it's an argument.
No, that's fine.
Okay? All right, so Ms. Herstein, what would you like to do next?
I would like to first say that this particular rectification, you know, it was stated from the beginning, from that very first time when, I think it was January 20th, when he came into the office and got all the pictures with the asterisks on everything that needed a permit, and why this is not a new, popped up at the end kind of a requirement. This has been something that we've stated from the beginning. So I would like to put that on the record as well. I would also like to call Steve Edmonds, Inspector Steve Edmonds, forward, if he would, please.
Mr. Edmonds? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay?
Okay, Steve, if you would please state your name, your position with the city, and how long you've worked for the city.
Steve Edmonds, I'm the building inspector, plans examiner. I've been here 16 years.
Thank you, Steve. Are the pictures and official documents that you've seen so far consistent with an inaccurate representation of anything that you've created or everything that you've seen over the course of the case?
Yes, they are.
Do the events as they've been presented by the city represent a true and accurate account of your understanding of the facts of this case?
Yes.
Is there anything that you'd like to correct or add to what's been presented so far?
Just one, to help clarify his question of why it needs a permit.
Okay?
It's a steel column in there, which is a support, but there's also usually metal framing or something that's around that, which is holding that stucco. Normally what happens is
Metal mesh?
well, you have a metal mesh, which is a lath, which is attached usually to metal framing,
Okay.
metal stud framing. That stuff usually starts rusting and it stops holding the stucco, and that's usually what lets it crack, because whatever is inside there is damaged. What happens is, you know, we get this a lot where we see these problems and they come and caulk them, and then a year later we're right back to the same thing, and eventually these pieces, like say we had a shopping plaza, the pieces were just small pieces at first falling off.
Excuse me, sorry.
Eventually it turned into like a 4x8 sheet of concrete that fell on somebody. So you know, they can get a lot worse. Like say this is on a walkway right in front of a store where somebody could be walking by it. You know, it's gonna start with small pieces just falling off, even if it's been recaulked. And eventually it's gonna turn into larger pieces coming off, which could hurt somebody. And that's why we're interested in a permit and seeing what's the failing problem behind it to make sure it gets repaired correctly.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Do you have any questions for him, sir? Okay, come on up and ask the question.
Okay. You're saying it's a large concrete. First of all, it's a stucco. It's not a concrete. It's not going to fall or anything. It's not big. It's very small. If you want, I can support it from underneath.
We would have to get engineering for
All right.
it.
I just, you know, that's my question to him, you know.
Okay.
Just-
Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Evans, regarding the answer to your?
No, like I say, and we also told him originally, I've had conversations with him that said if he wanted to open it up at first, to let an engineer come in and inspect really more what the problem is and then come up with a fix, we could do that too, that I would, you know, accept a partial permit just to investigate it to start with, and then let the engineer give us a good direction as to how to fix it. Because, you know, obviously, whatever they're gonna try to do, he's gonna be guessing is what's in there. You know, what's failing. So it's easier to, you know, get the contractor, open it up, see what the problem is, let the engineer give us that, you know, repair, and then do the repair.
Okay. While I have you up here, the two stub columns or column bases, what would be required to fix those or to make them compliant?
We gave them a couple different options. Unfortunately, right now it's an unused element, you know, and it's kind of a trip hazard because there's nothing there. It did hold an arch that was on the building, and they removed the arch because that stuff was failing. That was part of something that was damaged with the fires, parts of it was. So they just removed it all and left these bases. I told them they could put a planter on it, so it's, you know, like a concrete planter, where I don't have to worry about them blowing away or anything like that, or rolling out in the road, something with a little weight to it. He wanted to build something. If you build something, it would have to be engineered, so I was trying to stay away from making him get an engineer just to do something with that. He wanted to do, build these things so he could use it for a entry later, but it still kind of makes it unused.
On top of it, that still reserves that use for.
Yeah, it still kind of reserves the use to use it again. If he wants to get an engineer and build some kind of trellis or something over it, he can do that. Just something that makes a use of it. He wanted to just kind of build something on it that he could still use it in the future, and it's still an unused element if it's not used with something. So that's why I suggested just a planter, a concrete planter on it that I wasn't going to worry about engineering because it was heavy enough to kind of stay in place with wind and some dirt in it and put some plants in it. I thought that would be the cheapest option for it.
Okay. I appreciate that explanation. Sir, do you have any questions for Mr. Evans based upon my question?
I'm searching for something to
Okay.
do it right.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Ms. Herstein, anything additional?
I would like to go ahead and make my request, and then
Okay.
have plenty of time for Mr. Morelli to speak. I would like to ask that that you find the property in violation, that you grant the property owner until March 22nd, which is 60 days, and that's a long time, but it's based on the need for engineering. Depending on how he chooses to move forward with the bases and engineering for the column. And that so that 60 days, March 22nd, to correct the violations. If they're not corrected, that you impose a fine in the amount of $150. And until they are corrected, we also request that you impose reimbursement of the administrative fees of $149.09. And you can see an affidavit for that, and that is on page 5A31.
Thank you. I've already looked at that.
Thank you, and I would also request an order number 4, which is a no fine standing order without additional fees. There's no reason to ask them for fees twice. And that would be for violations A through D, F through I, and K.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, sir, this is your opportunity to present evidence, call witnesses, tell me anything you'd like.
I'm going to work with them to fix that.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to work with the city to fix that.
Okay. Would you come to the podium, please?
Yeah.
All right. Seeing no argument on your behalf and being convinced by the city's presentation, I'm going to find you in violation and give you 60 days to correct letters E, the stucco crack, which I'm most concerned of, J, the 2 columns, which seems to be an incredibly easy fix. Just stick 2 planters on top of there, 2 statuary, whatever it is that you would enjoy having there, and receive the certificate of compliance. I'm going to order that you pay, or that you correct these violations by March 22nd. That gives you 60 days. So it should be long enough, and that if it's not fixed by March 22nd, I'm going to fine you $150 a day until it's fixed. Also, order administrative costs of $149.09 to be paid within 30 days. And give an order number 4, which means you are compliant with all of the rest of the violations. Now, one thing I'm very concerned about is in the briefing book, not only do I have the violations, but I also have all of the interactions that you've had with the city. And it seems to me that there's been quite a bit of incivility toward the city employees. While I don't have the power to punish you for free speech or anything, it does seem to me that you will get more of a response from the city if you are as nice to them as you expect them to be nice to you. These are very difficult and trying times. I understand that you're under a lot of economic pressure because you don't want to have to put another penny into this building you don't have to. But it is not the city's fault that this is what's happened to your building. And from what I've seen, they're trying awfully hard to help you. So I ask, please be in a manner that you would expect them to treat you. Fair enough? All right, thank you very much for your time, sir.
I can go?
You may go, or you can stay. Most people like to stay. They find this very interesting. No? All right.
I'm doing a knee surgery. I don't want to go back.
All right, well, maybe he didn't.
Sir, do most people really find this very interesting? You're not under oath, but I'm just saying, I'm not so sure. We'll see if everybody else does.
Well, you know, as you can see, the concession stand is doing very well, and people have brought signs and are cheering along, so. Okay, next case is Century Nationwide Properties LLC, 2122 South Atlantic Avenue, Daytona Beach Shores, Florida. Is there a representative for that property? All right, sir, what's your name?
Jeremy Cook.
Jeremy Cook. And Mr. Cook, how are you connected to the property?
My mother's an owner, and we got some kind of form signed so I could represent to the.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Manager too there, so.
When I am dealing with somebody, what I'm interested in is if I'm dealing with somebody that has the power to make something happen.
I do.
And I imagine you have enough influence over your mother that you could make something happen.
Sure.
Okay, not that I can ever get my mother to do anything. All right. Ms. Herstein, you've been previously sworn. Please begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate's notebook for this case be accepted as evidence along with the slides which are about to be shown.
Okay. Mr. Cook, have you had an opportunity to examine the documents?
Yes.
And do you have any objection to them coming into evidence? Okay. Are you contesting the violations, Mr. Cook?
No.
Okay. Then rather than have, if you would please put a cursory evidentiary statement on the record, and then we'll proceed trying to figure out how to correct this.
There is one issue I had a question about. I was going to ask you when it came up, the question time. I don't know if it would be now.
Well, what is that?
It's that back window on with the southwest side.
Your Honor, he really needs to be on the record.
Okay.
Please, I'm sorry.
If you would, please,
Let me find the picture and then I'll step aside.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Now, I have not seen any of these pictures previously, so I'm going to need a little bit of an explanation as to what I'm looking at here.
This, I think it was a window, and then they boarded it off. The building's an arcade, or used to be an arcade, but in the backside there, I believe it was a window, and then they blocked it off. I looked through, and on the Sunbit website, it looks like we took control around 2012, and it was like that when we bought it, and then eventually this became an issue. I understand the building's in various states of disrepair, but this particular issue, I don't know why this wasn't worked out before we bought the building, or why it became an issue when I forget your timeline, probably 2019, late 2019, what prompted it. I go to city council meetings and I know various things were being passed, so maybe that was the issue, the city didn't have the authority. So maybe I'm answering my own question, but.
Quite likely is. Ms. Herstein?
And the end of 2019 and very beginning of 2020, the city council passed the ordinances which then required a certificate of compliance vacant property.
Okay.
It raised the standards for those properties where previously we'd kind of gone, that's been that way for a little while, it's not hurting anybody, but basically the city council said you're only making matters worse for us by not doing everything that you can to bring each of these properties into compliance. And they raised the standard, you know.
Okay.
They also had us look at the inside. That's what had us look at it later, you know, or after it had been that way for a little while. And that's why there are so many individual little items addressed in this that we might have before just picked up the phone and said, Jeremy, can you paint? Now it's, you know, it's a lot of things that not all of them require as much as that, you know, doing that window, properly blocking it in do, but,
Right.
you know, getting it all a clear blueprint of what we're asking for.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear that I had a little bit of a question about that, but everything's good to continue.
Okay, so you agree with the city's findings as to what's not in compliance?
Yes.
Okay. while I have you up here, I'm going to skip slightly out of turn. How long do you think it'll take you to correct all of these things?
Without just saying a bunch of excuses, I think it could be done within 90 days.
Okay. I appreciate your input. I'm going to let the city put on a cursory case for the record, just in case, you know, you get hit by a bus, I get hit by a bus, and they have to recreate what happened here.
Okay.
Okay? All right, Ms. Herstein, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So basically, I updated, first of all, the property has had, for both the notice of violation and interior deficiency list, and then also the notice of hearing for today's meeting. We've achieved good service for both of those. I think that's important to be on the record. And
I saw that.
so yesterday afternoon, I did another quick cursory look to see if I could knock off any of the other violations as being compliant to differentiate and put in a no fine standing order. I did not see that I could do that for any of the violations, but I did note that that the front grass looked very nicely trimmed, and that makes a difference. It's not a violation, but it looks nicer. So basically, we're asking for an order number 7 with administrative fee reimbursement for violations A and E through Y. And I know that Mr. Cook asked for 90 days based on my observances of the patterns right now with timing and engineering and permitting, et cetera. I'm going to request that he be given 120 days to correct, which is until May 20th. Almost all of our orders lately have shifted into a first compliance hearing scenario, and so just in an effort to save everybody a little bit of time and energy, I'd like to give that extra amount of time. I'd also like to ask for administrative fee reimbursement of $162.89, and there's an affidavit for that on 5B-34.
I've had an opportunity to see that. All right, Mr. Cook, I am inclined to agree with the city that frequently repair estimates are overly optimistic, and it costs you nothing to get the additional 30 days from me. But if you're not done within 90 days, those 30 days begin to cost you $150 a day. So out of an abundance of caution, let's give you till May 20th, all right? So I'm gonna order number 7, that is non-compliance with items A and E through Y on the city's affidavit. Order that they be corrected within 120 days, that's May 20th. Failure to correct them, the fine will run 150 days and what?
I'm sorry, I did not ask for the $250 per day, but this certainly added together rises to that level.
So you, $250 per day until repaired. So as you can see, those extra 30 days will come in handy, and they're free in the front. They're expensive in the back. Order that administrative fees and costs of $162.89 be paid within 30 days. Can you do that?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any questions about what I've asked you to do?
Do I just drop the check off to the city, like Gwen, or, yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, well, thank you very much for being here. You're more than welcome to stay. You're not required to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Next item on our agenda is, oh boy, Manuel and Arlene
Solida.
Solida. Okay, I guess that's a long E. 3023 South Atlantic Avenue, Unit 702, Daytona Beach Shores. Is Manuel or Arlene Solida here?
Here, Your Honor.
Are you Manuel?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, Ms. Herstein, please begin.
Thank you. This is for a unit in residential condominium building at 3023 South Atlantic Avenue. There's a picture of the building, not of the unit,
Right.
obviously. It's unit 702.
Ocean's Atrium.
Thank you. And I'd ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the code enforcement special magistrate notebook for this case be accepted as evidence along any slides which are about to be shown.
Okay, Mr. Slater, do you have any objection to the documents that the city intends to introduce?
No objection.
Have you had an opportunity to review them prior?
Yes, I have.
All right, they'll be received into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I'd like to say first, just a general statement. In order to ensure that all permits are final approved, the building department calls, emails, and repeats those actions to remind contractors to call in final inspections. We had quite a few at the end of 2019, so the building official Hyatt personally got involved and reached out with calls and emails to the contractors, which got excellent results in most cases. He then turned over about 70 remaining expired permits to me, which with notices of violation, I was able to get compliance with all but almost 8, I think about 8. So these will be coming forward to you, 2 of which I'm bringing you today, and this is one of them.
Okay, and this was an air conditioning unit?
Yep, mechanical permit 2019-0893 was obtained June 7th of 2019 for an AC replacement, exactly. With no final inspection called in for it, it expired on December 6th. It was forwarded to me for action after those attempts were made, like I just stated, September 2nd, 2020. I sent a notice of violation September 22nd, and good service was achieved on that. You can see the notice violation on 5C, beginning on 5C-8. About a month later, Mr. Salida called. He'd been unsuccessful getting the original contractor to reobtain the permit. Many times, if they're not listening to us, they will listen to the person who paid them to do the job, so it's kind of a two-pronged approach, but because he wasn't getting the results, to get his original contractor to reobtain the permit, he took the names and phone numbers of the last 6 mechanical contractors who had pulled permits in the city.
Okay.
December 28th, 2 months later, I reevaluated, saw that this had not moved forward. We had not received a permit application. So I sent a statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing. Good service was achieved for that. You can see those documents beginning on 5C-12. Yesterday.
Before we get that far, on 5C-6, there is, it looks like a memorandum on September 2nd, 2020, and there lists a contractor, A/C 1 Incorporated. Is that the original contractor that pulled the permit?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that's the person who has not fulfilled their obligation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And does AC-1 continue to pull permits in Daytona Beach Shores?
I generally do check this out for the purposes of passing along when there's a pattern to the building official, because there is an opportunity. It's an arduous task, but for him to send repeat offenders to put a black mark against their license before a state board. But in this particular case, they may have pulled some permits, but they're not a regular permit puller in our city. They're not, certain contractors you see again and again and again, and we know them all by name. And in this particular one, I can't even think of what that gentleman looks like.
Okay.
So,
Does the city code enforcement department have the ability to suspend a contractor's ability to pull a permit?
not at all, Your Honor. In fact, the Florida statutes are very specific about this. There are a lot of situations, including this one, where we cannot keep someone from obtaining a permit as long as they have the license that's active and current, they have the insurances required in the workers' comp. We would actually get in trouble if we were to say, sorry, you're not doing right by our residents, so you're gonna not be able to pull any more permits, unless our only avenue of complaint is to go to the state with that complaint against their license, and then that is up to that body, the board. And if you're interested in who exactly it is, we can ask Fred to come up.
Okay. Does the language of the permit require that the contractor call for a final inspection?
I believe so. I'm trying to picture the language. There's a lot of state mandated language in different type sizes on the permit itself. But it's an understood, in the process of getting that license, It's something that you learn when you're getting your license. Any of the state contractor, mechanical license, electrical license, that what requires a permit, what doesn't, and then the final, yes, and in fact, the Florida Building Code requires that a final permit, a final inspection is completed, so.
Okay. And finally, I don't have any ability to compel this contractor to help the consumer that they charged.
Unfortunately, no. And
Okay.
and I find that frustrating as well.
Okay. I just wanted to see if there was something we could do to nudge somebody in the right direction.
If I find that that there is something that you might be able to do to contribute, then I will definitely ask Mr. Hyatt to contact you about that, but I don't know of any pathway.
Okay. Mr. Salito, do you have any questions for Ms. Herstein based upon my questions at this point?
No, I have not.
Do you understand what I'm trying to do for you?
Yes, I do understand, and I've been very fortunate. She's been very helpful. And I was able to find finally a contractor, someone I spoke with and hired, who was going to help me get the permit.
Okay. Are you contesting the fact that your contractor did not call for final inspection?
No, I'm not contesting it.
All right. What I'm inclined to do is give him a period of time for reinspection, or for final inspection.
Permitting by a new, because it's
Yes, of
so
course.
expired, permitting by a new contractor, or the old one if he does come forward, and then final inspection, yes, please.
Okay.
The city would suggest 45 days. Again, normally we would say 30, but just in an abundance of caution and give him a chance to do what he needs to do. That's until March 8th, or a fine of $100 per day.
Okay. Sir, I really sympathize with you in this case. I don't find that you did anything wrong. Unfortunately, your property is not in compliance through no fault of your own. I'm going to give you, the state, or the city is saying 45. I'm going to give you 60, honestly, because it's easier for me to keep track of than 45, because I just basically add 60 to today's calendar and we go forward. 60 days to come into compliance, or a fine of $100 per day. The city is asking for administrative costs
Yes, we are.
in the amount of $149.09 within 30 days. Can you do that?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
I guess do I send it by check, credit card? How should I do the payment? Address it to you?
It would be addressed to the building department, or to the code enforcement office, and it could come by check. You could walk over there and do it, now if you wanted.
I remember my checkbook.
If you pay by credit card, there's a 3.25% fee, so I would suggest if you have the ability to use check, it's better.
Okay,
for you.
I'll mail, when I get back home,
good.
maybe I'll get home, I'll mail you the check.
I appreciate it.
All right,
And Feel
perfect.
free to follow up with me and ask if people have.
I will. I'll follow up with contractors as well, since he went to go see you yesterday.
Yesterday, mhm.
So I'll follow up with him every 2 days, make sure everything's okay, and hopefully we can resolve this within less than a month.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much for your help, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay. Next case is D. Matthew and Heather Fox, 3043 South Atlantic Avenue, Unit 1706. Is Matthew or Heather Fox here? No. Okay. Sir, are you here for Joanne Zimmerman as trustee?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Herstein, I'm going to take the final case out of order. This gentleman's been sitting here a while, and then we can talk for the record on the Fox case. Is that acceptable to the city?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So that is E. And, sir, what's your name?
David Burkett.
And your connection to the property?
I rent space, the commercial space there at 3300 South Atlantic Avenue.
Okay.
You have received an authorization form for this gentleman to be here today and represent the owner, a notarized
Okay.
copy of that form.
Great. You may proceed, Ms. Herstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate notebook be accepted as evidence, along with any slides which are about to be shown.
Okay. Mr. Burkett, have you had an opportunity to review
have.
the documents? Do you have any legal objections to them? Okay.
This property is, it's interesting. It has a commercial building in the front. That's what the purple arrow is pointing to. And it has a duplex in the rear side, and that is a legal non-conforming residential duplex.
When I saw the picture, 2 families occupy this structure?
Well, I'll show you. That's the front, and let's see if I have. Nope, I don't have a good side view of the duplex, but you'll see some pictures. It's a a duplex, which is
1 bedroom,
Yeah.
efficiency pretty much, yeah.
And do you reside in the duplex, Mr. Burkett? Okay. All right, I guess my idea of what living space is completely contrary to these people that are happy to rent this, so please proceed. I guess that has no bearing on this hearing.
I want to move into your home. Okay, so this case began with a complaint from one of those duplex tenants that we were just talking about. Basically, one of his windows was not secure. He said he could just pop the thing right out, and I made arrangements to inspect the next day. I did inspect. I found that violation and a number of others, basically A through O. And did send the notice of violation the next day. Good service was achieved for that notice of violation, and you can see it beginning on page 5E-10. In early September, I heard from the owner who said that she would move forward and rectify these. At the end of October, I re-inspected, found that only the double real estate sign had been rectified. So one of the violations was that there were 2 real estate signs when they could only have 1, and so that had been taken care of almost immediately. But that was the only one. I sent a statement of violation, request for hearing, and notice of hearing for the December 2nd meeting, and good service was achieved for that. At that point, the owner sent a letter requesting a continuance because her property was under contract.
Right. I had not seen the request for continuance until yesterday when I read through the briefing book. I didn't take any action on the continuance because I hadn't seen it, but I guess because I was in the hospital.
It was a moot point.
Yeah, it was. She got her continuance by default.
And exactly. And generally, you would not be sent those, just so you're aware.
Okay.
They would be handled in these proceedings.
Okay.
So it was under contract. She was also going to be out of town. Like you said, because the meeting was canceled, she effectively got what she asked for. December 28th, I went back out. I actually did not go back out. I sent the new notice of hearing. I did see that not much had been done. I sent a new notice of hearing and the existing statement of violation request for hearing. Good service was achieved for today's meeting, and you can see those documents beginning on page 5E-19. There was some progress made, and I guess the owner decided to go ahead and move forward. They had been possibly going to sell to another person, but just decided to go ahead and fix the items, which is great. It might help them sell. I re-inspected when asked to do that. That was January 12th, and then I went back out on January 14th when asked to find that many of the violations had been rectified. I will be asking again for a number 4 no fine standing order and a number 7 for just a couple of remaining violations. So I would like, if you don't mind, to go through the pictures briefly with you.
Sure.
As you can see before I move this slide forward, E, violations E, the ones in red, K, L, and N are the only violations that are still non-compliant. And E, I know that this gentleman behind me has been working diligently on taking care of that one, so that could be compliant at this point, but I have not been called back to re-inspect yet.
So they replaced the 2 AC units?
I think they replaced 3 AC units. Mm-hmm. And their window units, they didn't require a permit, so all good there.
All right. I'm always impressed when people take care of the high dollar items first as opposed to just weed eating the weeds. So.
Okay, this is a screenshot This was as of January 15th, showing permits that had been pulled by that point. And as you can see, there's nothing recent, nothing since 2018 obtained for the property. And if we go back to the violation list, violation K requires an electrical permit, violation L requires a building permit, and violation N can be looped in with the with violation K's electrical permit if they so desire, or could be obtained on a second one, so that seems silly. So this is a picture of the duplex you can see in the top picture, and or the two left pictures, and then the front building office use. I'm not sure why I'm showing you the rear of that building, but you get the idea of the two different buildings and what they look like.
Is the satellite dish rusting
It,
violation?
it did not end up on this notice of violation, though it definitely is in violation. Yes. I've looked at that every time I've gone back out and asked what was wrong with me the day that I initially wrote it up, because yes.
I'm not looking for things, but I was just curious.
So the initial inspection, these are pictures of violation A, grass and weeds over 12 inches high in many places on the property. That I deemed compliant on January 12th. You can see. Okay, so again, because these pictures are being shown in support of the no fine standing order, I'm not showing you pictures of what it looks like as of this moment. I'm showing you that the bottom, the orange pictures are the ones that it was still non-compliant by the date that we asked them to be compliant, which was 30 days, and then they were given much longer. So violation B, taped in place cardboard, deteriorated wood being used in places to block openings. That was non-compliant by the reinspection date. What you cannot see, where I've given you a purple square and an orange square, that was the taped in place cardboard piece. They did just remove that window unit entirely, releasing the need for having anything in that place. So that was.
Was that the violation that initially the tenant complained about?
No, we'll get
The
to that.
unsecured window?
Nope. Violation C, paint shows fading, streaking, peeling, and discoloration in places, both east and west buildings. That is now compliant, but was not by October 29th. Violation D, weeds are present in places across property. That was, again, not compliant by the reinspection date of October 29th. They had definitely made progress, but they weren't there yet. Initial inspection, August 26th, so violation E, debris in the form of trash and fallen palm fronds are present in places on the property. This is one that I'm going to ask to be on the violation list. I have not been able to make sure all the debris has been gone and the fallen palm fronds. This gentleman behind me again, Mr. Burkett, has made tremendous strides, but hasn't let me know, okay, come and see, it's all done. This would be on the findings of fact. Violation F, paint peeling in places, both buildings, and you can see where I've looked again on October 29th, and I've tried to show you the exact same spots. Again, now it looks beautiful. Violation G, buildings do not present a neat and fresh appearance. The paint is streaked, discolored, and deteriorated, both buildings. Showing you both again, was not done yet. Violation H, buildings do not present a neat and fresh appearance, and the paint on doors, shutters, windowsills, and fascia is chip faded, streaked, and discolored.
Was that palm tree removed?
Nope, I just am standing in a different angle.
Okay.
Was not compliant with the reinspection date, but is compliant now. Violation I, 2 rusted AC units do not present a neat and fresh appearance. North and south building faces, that was not compliant by the reinspect, but is now. Violation I. This is a screenshot. Apparently, when I took a movie of it, I had to make a screenshot because it wouldn't embed for me here. Window elements are broken on the west building face. Bottom half of window falls off into room, which was exactly what the tenant was demonstrating to me at that time. Steve has since gone out. We had not seen that it was compliant, we saw it was exactly the same on October 29th. Steve has gone out and it seemed the screws had all been removed, so he has verified that the screws are in place in a sufficient quantity that it meets code. Violation K, meter cans and disconnect housings are rusty and rusted through in places, east building face. So this is on the duplex. You can see when we re-inspected, they were still the way that they had been. And that's one that we would ask to be on the findings of fact. They are moving forward on that. We did get a call from an electrician, basically saying they'd need some extra time because they need time to disconnect and reconnect with FPL, and apparently that's backed up by a week or two. They did try to paint over these, and that was not sufficient. They do need to be replaced. Violation L, windows broken on south building face. So this window was replaced. You need to get a permit to do that, so as I understand, they're working on that as well. It was not replaced by that re-inspection date. Violation M is now compliant, but it was for the wall, with it being in good repair with a cared-for appearance. It was not when we re-inspected. Violation N, light fixture missing at Unit E, wires exposed. So there is a new light fixture in place at this point, but that again needs to be covered under that permit, that electrical permit.
Okay.
Violation O, landscaping is not being kept in a neat and well-maintained condition that we have documented compliance of now, but as of October 29th, it was not compliant. And we are asking then for the no fine standing order, the number 4, for violations A through D, F through J, M and O. And we are asking for number 7, the findings of fact document for violations E, K, L, and N. We're also asking reimbursement of the minimum administrative fees, $149.09, with an affidavit on 5E-27. We ask that the property be found in violation and that they be given 90 days, which is April 20th. That may seem like a long time, but again, with the electrical contractor saying that they were booked out through January a week and a half ago, plus having had some experiences where FPL was backed up for 2 weeks already. I just want to make sure they've done a lot on the property. They just need to go the rest of the way, and I want to make sure that we give them time to do it so we're not coming back for just a straggling thing.
Okay.
And that's my request.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Burkett, do you have any questions for Ms. Herstein?
Yeah, I apologize. I was out of town. I was back in Colorado, and I expected to be back in October. And I helped Mrs. Zimmerman around taking care of the property and so forth. And I did have somebody who was supposed to come out and do the lawn, take care of this, but the rains and everything else that was going on, they couldn't get to it for whatever reason. So anyway, I just wanted to apologize for that. We have been taking really strides and could be compliant here and take care of all these matters. We do have somebody for the electrical. We do have I think a permit that's been applied for the electrical, and also for the light fixtures outside have been replaced, the windows as well, and the air conditioning unit. So yeah, so it's moving forward. It's just timely matters. Yeah.
I understand and I appreciate the efforts that you're making to move forward. Do you have anything you want to tell me beyond that?
Not really, no. Mrs. Zimmerman, obviously, she's been trying to sell this building for quite some time now, and we've had several different offers on the property. Unfortunately, their due diligence periods have extended her patience, to take care of this, and she's withdrawn those, or they have come forward. So hopefully this facelift for the building will bring somebody forward for a purchase on it fairly soon.
Well, you do have rented property behind it. I imagine that would make it more attractive than
Absolutely.
the average
Yeah.
retail space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I'm going to do is what the city recommends. I'm going to issue a number 4, which means I'm finding you compliant with A through D, F through J, M, and O. Number 7, non-compliant with E, K, L, and N. I'm going to give you 90 days to fix that, which goes till April 20th, or $150 a day, fines thereafter, in order that $149.09 be paid within 30 days. Can you do all of this?
Yes.
Okay, I don't enjoy giving people tasks they can't complete.
Right, I think everything is reasonable. The electrical, our painter said, oh yes, you can paint over that, I'll bondo it, and I was like, well, he's not an electrician, okay? And so
Right.
whatever. But, yes, so we understand that needs to be done.
Okay, great. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we took E out of order because we had a person here. The final case is D, property owners Matthew and Heather Fox. Are either of the Foxes here? Okay, hearing nothing. This is property 3043 South Atlantic Avenue, Unit 1706. Ms. Hurstein?
Thank you, Your Honor.
May I ask one question?
Sure.
So all those violations you mentioned, are those set up in here as well? The ones that were, okay.
Early on, if you can't find the page, just give me a call in about an hour and I'll walk you through it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is another situation where the permits expired and no steps were taken. I want to give you a little bit of a background. First, I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the code enforcement special magistrate notebook for this case be accepted as evidence, along with any slides that are about to be shown.
Okay, hearing no objection, they'll be accepted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to give a little background. This is at the bottom of slide 5D-3. So basically, there was a building permit obtained in 2018, at the very beginning of 2018, to remodel the kitchen, tile the master and spare bathroom. There was a supporting plumbing permit obtained on 2/15/2018 to accompany that building permit, and there was a supporting electrical permit obtained on 2/22/18 to accompany that building permit. That's very normal, all is good. Unfortunately, the plumbing permit failed final inspection on October 5th of 2018 because the shower pan was not connected to the water line, which is not ideal.
Well, let me ask you that. If it's not connected to the water line, it's just spilling out onto the floor.
Indeed, which happens, and sometimes it's not, you know, if somebody does it without a permit, it happens more often and because nobody's there to look. So what I believe happened, I don't believe this has been leaking this whole time because the neighbors down below would
I'm
have
going to say 2 years.
But probably what happened was the plumber was either there or the GC was there and said, this has to be fixed, and they probably fixed it immediately before the shower was used, hopefully, but, or else we probably would have heard about this before now.
Okay.
In any event, though, we need to be able to verify that it was done properly, that it wasn't just like a plug put in and now it fills up, or who knows? I mean, it could have been done in a way that we wouldn't know about it, but still incorrectly, right? So that failed final inspection, and then nothing further happened with it. The electrical permit, and basically the plumbing and the electrical passed progress inspections before these failed inspections. So yes, they're underway, yes, you're working on it, but you're not done. They passed those inspections, but then the electrical failed final inspection because the hot and neutral wires were reversed.
And what would be the effect of that?
That's something we could get Steve up here to do, but I think that it could be a major problem.
So if something was plugged into that outlet, it just wouldn't work, right?
I don't know. Steve? If you don't
Steve?
mind?
Sorry to make you play show and tell, but you're here, so.
Yeah, the outlet actually technically would work because most plugs are not really sometimes looking for which one's ground and which one's hot. But what happens with that is because it's a GFI outlet, it will not trip properly. So if it ever shorts out and it gets wet, it will electrocute somebody versus tripping like it should.
Oh, well, that would let them know that it's not working right?
Yeah, and that would let them know it's really not working right then.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering the question.
And that was at the outlet to the left of the master bath sink. Also, there was an exposed wire leading to the ceiling fan in the guest bath. So those two things caused that electrical permit to expire. Probably when it expired, one of the calls from our office or from the building official or emails from our office or from the building official caused them to replace that electrical permit. Didn't happen with the plumbing, but the electrical permit was replaced with a new permit. But But even when they did that, they didn't call for a final inspection. So they said, okay, fine, your permit expired, let's rectify it, and they pulled in a replacement permit, but then still didn't call for a final. I cannot tell you why.
Have you had any contact with the owner?
Absolutely zero.
How peculiar.
They-
Okay.
There was good service for the notice of violation. So basically, it was forwarded to me at the end of October, October 31st. I sent the notice of violation, good service was achieved. You can see that on 5D16. Excuse me. We didn't hear from anybody at that point, so I looked at it again. Nothing had moved forward in any way. So I sent a statement of violation, request for hearing, and notice of hearing. Good service was also achieved for that. And they do actually live in this unit too. So, I mean, I have not gone and knocked on their door. And that's something that maybe I should have done. We've been extremely busy in my office. But hopefully, a lot of times we send the notice of hearing, that causes people to go, okay, so she's serious, and so now I should do something.
Sure.
But I still haven't heard from anybody.
And the contractor, All Pro Electric, are you familiar with them?
All Pro Electric, yes, sounds more familiar. I do think that they do pull some permits. Sometimes it's unfortunately a matter of owners not granting access. So they'll call, the contractor will call the owner, and I don't know, this is pure speculation, but the contractor could call an owner and say, I really need to get this taken care of. We need to set up an time for inspection. And the owner doesn't respond, doesn't want people back in their unit. There are all kinds of reasons that happens. So I don't know what's gone on in this situation. All I do know is that there were failed inspections that we've never officially moved on from and gotten, been able to dot the I's and cross the T's. So what I am requesting is an order number 7. You don't like the 45-day. I would like to push for the 45 days in this case until March 8th.
You've had no contact with the owner. 45 days is very reasonable.
Thank you. And which is March 8th, or a fine of $150 per day would begin. And I'd like to request reimbursement of administrative fees in the amount of $149.09. Affidavit you can see on page 5D-26.
Yes, I've reviewed it.
This is a screenshot, if you also don't mind me pointing out on 5D-27. You can see those 2 red boxes around the 2 permits that we're talking about right now.
Right.
You see below that, with the same property owner, other permits that have been pulled for this unit to do other things, and those have been successfully final inspected. So I really don't know what to say. And you've seen that they have let us in for inspection, so I really don't know.
Well, I do sympathize with the owner if it's the contractor's fault, like Mr. Salita testified, but with no testimony or contact with the owner, all I can do is presuppose that it's the owner's fault, and they've had proper notice. I'm going to grant an order number 7 with 45 days to correct the violations. After 45 days, $150 per day will accrue, $149.09 within 30 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, I see that is the end of, where is it? End of initial hearings. Ms. Herstein, I have a question for you, if you could answer it for me. I note that on our last meeting of October 21st, the property owner, SS 2500 LLC, was fined by myself $36,750, and her counsel, Mr. Pappas, said that he was going to appeal to the city council. I was wondering, did anything ever occur on that?
My understanding is, first of all, officially no. My understanding is that the property owner did reach out by way of phone call, possibly a meeting, to either, and possibly both, the mayor and the city manager, asking what the what the steps were. Also, I believe that the city clerk was approached by email, or was emailed, and did respond with the form that the owner would need to complete in order to be seen by the city council or heard by the city council. To my understanding, and the form does go through my office so that I can complete some of the information that has not been submitted. We don't know of any formal appeal to the circuit court. And I have not heard that we have gotten that back. There were some like verbal requests made that the case be reheard, but that there was no basis for that, so.
Okay. I'm always interested what happens to my rulings after they're published.
That respondent was given until yesterday to pay the reduced amount, or the fine was reinstated in full. And so that's what has to happen now. A final order will need to be recorded,
Okay.
demonstrating that the fine is back at the unreduced amount.
All right, thank you very much for answering my question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other business before the magistrate before I announce the meetings and close the session?
Just that the next 3 hearing dates are published. They're just like they always are, regularly scheduled the 3rd Wednesday at 9 a.m. of each month. Next case, we do expect to have a remote Teams meeting for a compliance hearing. That was going to be heard today, but they weren't prepared.
All right, well, I appreciate that, the technical. I personally have a hard time working Teams. I can Zoom with the rest of them, but Teams I don't do so well. So we have February 17th, March 17th, and April 21st, 2020 at 9 a.m. for the next 3 meetings. Again, I apologize for not being here in December. I would much rather have been here than where I was.
I think it's important that you were where you were.
And with that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Steve, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Those parking bumpers,